Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Express. It is Monday, September 21st, 2009.
Let's make sure. Let's see. Friday 18, Saturday 19, Sunday 20, Monday the 21st. This guy can't pay attention to the date, so I'm glad he got it right. Damian Nelson, go.
Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead, and Dave Hero here with you, and it's all about your emails again. And let's just get right down to it. Firstly, this email comes from Sean McCabe, who says, I recently found PWR through YouTube. I first saw the interview with Mr. Kennedy. After watching it, I went to PWR and watched a good amount of the videos in the archives. I've always been interested in wrestling, and I'm happy that to have discovered that there is so much information that is out there. I just wanted to say that you are all doing a great job and keep up the great work. Again, thanks for all the stuff you do with PWR. Thank you, Sean, for tuning in.
Thanks, Sean.
And remember, Ken Anderson returns to the Pro Wrestling Report on this Wednesday night's edition, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, streaming live at pwrshow.com. Brett Jackson sends us in. I love this show. Meathead is the best and most likely world champion of the draft.
He must be 12.
My question is, do fans get too old for pro wrestling, or does pro wrestling get too old for fans?
Depends on the person. I think it's a case-by-case basis. What entertains you is really what you need to ask yourself at the end of the day.
I think the fans get too old for wrestling. You don't see the same fans all the time anymore. They're younger. Once at that,
where they have
35
more
to
to
40,
do.
When they have more responsibilities.
Well, you get married, you have kids, you get a job, you don't spend as much time. I think there's some validity to that, and you don't follow as closely as you did. I would venture to say that even all of us don't follow as much as we did in our earlier days.
Not even close.
There wasn't a wrestling program on that wasn't watched. It was even world-class championship wrestling on Saturday mornings. It's like, what is this? Oh, it's wrestling.
I can even tell you 2 years ago, I used to search on the DVR for Mexican wrestling in Spanish, and I would watch that, on the Telemundo or the Univision.
They have creams for that,
I rub it in. It's salve.
Joel Yinger from Windsor, Ontario, Canada says this. Would you agree with the assessment that Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Kurt Hennig, and Shawn Michaels are the all-time best North American workers in that order of all time? How would you rank them, and would you include anyone else in that list, basing yourself solely on in-ring abilities?
So we're talking about technical wrestling? Is that what we're saying?
Best North American
what do you say, worker?
wrestlers, workers, performers.
There's a very broad way of answering that.
Let's go technical wrestling. Let's go technical wrestling, because the
wrestling.
names listed certainly go down that road. Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Kurt Hennig, and Shawn Michaels. That's the list, and his order wants to know how we would order that list if differently.
Well, I guess for me, I'd probably put Ricky Steamboat, number 1.
Excellent choice.
Number 2, boy, you almost got to put Shawn Michaels there because he can still go even today. Kurt Hennig, number 3 for me. And then I like Nick Bockwinkel. If you go back to the 70s and 80s, I thought he was an excellent wrestler. And then, I'd probably put...
He was great on the microphone, too.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to be.
Yeah, he was excellent.
It's almost Jericho-esque. Not in...
And then Ray Stevens at number 5.
The Crippler.
Yes.
All right.
You're reckoning for Frank Cosentino
and
there.
if you don't know who Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens are, do a YouTube search. Watch
No.
their stuff.
Stop. You need to go to pwrshow.com and look at the hour-long interview that Frank Cosentino did with Nick Bockwinkel.
In this very studio.
Well, right, but if you want to see how good they were, do that. Because Ray Stevens, a lot of guys were big Ray Stevens fans.
Thank you very much for that email. The next one comes from Ireland. Iman Rogers says, what would you do with Mr. Anderson in TNA?
Anderson.
How would you announce his arrival, and what would you do with him afterwards? Basically, how would you book it?
I can tell you how I think they're going to book it, and I can tell you how maybe I would book it. I think they're going to book it. Anderson runs in at Bound for Glory for something.
Let's go ahead and quantify this discussion by saying that, as far as we know, no contract has been signed between the two parties at this point.
It's just a hearsay.
Speculation. It's an opinion.
But if I were to see it go my way, Anderson should show up, maybe Mick Foley-esque, weeks before Bound for Glory. Is he going to add more to the pay-per-view buy rate?
Weeks before, it's weeks before right now.
I know. So why doesn't he show up, say, at this pay-per-view coming up?
He's not going to be there.
I know that.
The pay-per-view last night, No Surrender.
I don't pay attention to the dates either, folks. Gimmick infringement, sorry.
There's so many different ways to go, and quite frankly, some of the best things are things that you could have never planned or thought of. How to introduce them, though, I think it's a slow build. I think it's some hype, much like they did with the Black Pope, who's no longer black. He's just
The
a
Black Pope?
Pope. That's what he's been calling himself before he got to TNA and just before he came in.
Okay. But that's
Why
not
don't
what
you
they call
pay
him.
attention to the product?
If I'm TNA, I build off
They
of his,
don't call him Black Pope in the product.
I build off his vignettes he's been doing on his own.
Yeah.
He's sitting around, maybe just little, 30-second spots like that, and I think the fans are going to love it.
I think so too. As long as he doesn't hurt himself again on a cheeseburger.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. No.
Next email comes from Chris from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Very international flavor to the emails this week, guys, which is good. He says, I don't get why you guys are marking out so much for Randy Orton. In my opinion, he has just been crammed down our throats since 2004. His matches, for the most part, are boring and one-dimensional. His list of moves consists of a headlock, diamond cutter, and a neck breaker. His mic skills are mediocre as best. His whole Viper gimmick is stupid, and I don't think most fans are buying it. I think Orton's best work came from his Evolution and Rated RKO days, and with when he has somebody else to help carry the load, because Orton is just not talented enough to carry
Yeah,
it
that's
himself.
absolutely asinine to say that he's not talented.
I'm sure you guys will roast me on this, but I still value your opinions.
See, you didn't even get done answering the question.
I'm sorry, but I mean, when you make a remark like that, it's got to be.
Well, no, this is his opinion.
Right.
And it is your opinion, and we're not
He
saying that you
doesn't like
shouldn't have.
opinions, does he?
No, that's not true. And there's still no beef between Dave and I. Dave.
No, I mean, for me, I've never marked out for Randy Orton. I say he's the best heel they have on their program right now. He's very slow. He's very methodical. He reminds me of a very young Jake Roberts. Takes his time with his promos, how he's in the ring. He does a great job. He's a great heel. But yeah, I mean, there is some improvement for Randy Orton. But keep in mind, he's been working a lot with John Cena, not one of the best technical wrestlers out there.
And to be honest, who cares what the moveset is? I mean, you got to understand, just because you see him doing a diamond cutter, you see him doing a rest, so what? That's not really all that you need from wrestling. That's not what you need. I mean, wrestling is an overall package. Granted, when you're looking at a pay-per-view match, you want to see different moves, you want to see different spots, you want to see a mixture of stuff. But I just have a problem with people that harp on the 5-move guys. They'll say Cena has 5 moves.
It was very successful for Hulk Hogan.
Hart has 5 moves. Bret the Hitman Hart, he does the same thing. Damien will tell you that, he hated Bret Hart because he did the same match over and over.
In his last years.
Right.
But if you think about it, the moves that are the most ridiculous, the people's elbow,
You love him.
the worm,
Mandible
Well,
Claw.
Excuse
me, Sacco.
Well, I mean, but the fans love that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's no way you can beat somebody with an elbow drop or a worm or even the attitude adjust, which is just a body slam off your shoulders. But that's what the people want to see.
Next email comes from Glenn from Auckland, New Zealand, who asks
We're over
this.
down under.
Do you think CM Punk could make WWE money on his heel merchandise? For example, what he said on SmackDown once, and I quote, "I'm harder than any alcohol you can drink, straighter than any line you can snort. I can hurt you a lot faster than any pill you put on your tongue." Any of those lines could make a good t-shirt and sell with those kids.
All 3 of those lines would be great on the back of a T-shirt.
Right.
I like the harder than any alcohol you can drink.
I mean, there's money in CM Punk, but he's not going to sell the merch when he's working guys like Jeff Hardy and The Undertaker.
Right. They were talking about Cena on that one, actually.
CM Punk.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought you said John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena said I'm harder than any alcohol you can drink.
Right.
No, he didn't say that. CM Punk did.
That wasn't part
Pay
of his
attention
rap?
to the product.
Yeah, I
Randy
apologize.
Savage is the subject of this email from John Funk, who says...
Related to Terry Funk.
Anyways, what, if any, are your thoughts on Randy Savage, the Macho Man? Do you guys know of any story that may exist between he and Vince WWE? I've read all sorts of outrageous stories about what may have occurred with him and certain McMahons. Will we ever see the madness in WWE's Hall of Fame?
I heard there was a relationship between the Macho Man and somebody in the McMahon family.
Paul. This is when
And it
Paul was in
wasn't-
the
yeah,
closet.
But I'm not going to, It's rumor.
These stories about the disdain between WWE and Randy Savage have been out there for a very long time, similar to that's out there with the Ultimate Warrior. I'm not sure if either side has ever said anything really publicly, though, about it. I do, however, feel it is somewhat of a shame that Randy Savage is not yet in the Hall of Fame,
Or Bruno Sammartino,
who never will be.
or King Kong Bundy. Macho Man, well, he'll get in there one of these days. But
There's never a never in wrestling.
there's a lot of money to be made on that.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Macho Man doesn't want to do it right now. He doesn't need the money. He saved everything.
Right.
He doesn't
And-
want the $5,000 payday for the Hall of Fame.
And some ring that he could sell on eBay.
Yeah, he could pull up superstar Billy Graham.
Thank you very much for that email, John Funk. The next one comes from Rob Wilson, who says this. I'm a huge WWE fan, but ever since TNA has broken alliances from the NWA, I've been comparing ratings, wrestlers, and wrestling fans of both organizations. As much as I love WWE, TNA has more of an attitude about them than WWE has nowadays or during the WWE's Attitude Era. TNA has better wrestlers and talent than two-thirds of the WWE's rosters. TNA has a better balance of veterans, women knockouts, and mid-card wrestlers. I'm not saying WWE doesn't have great stars, such as Dolph Ziggler, The Miz MVP, and Beth Phoenix, and others, but the subject I really want to attack are the WWE divas. Only 4, Beth Phoenix, Mickie James, Gail Kim, and Natalya, out of all of them, are the best pure athletes and wrestlers. All the other divas are just eye candies and models. WWE should have that old Attitude Era back and rival their attitude towards TNA along with better and other wrestlers. The way the WWE went from a PG rating in the 80s and early 90s to the Attitude Era, then back to PG rating was not a good move. The company should be moving forward, not backwards,
Not a good move for who?
in this fan's opinion.
Okay, for his personal viewing. It was a good move for business.
That was a good move for merchandise.
Business.
You know, I mean, right? You know, they built the stars around John Cena, Rey Mysterio,
Mhm.
Jeff Hardy,
Mhm.
even DX. But guys like the Austins, the Rocks, when you had the Candy Asses and the
Know your roles and
yeah, all that.
SmackDown. and-
Poontang pie.
yes, and the whole strudel thing. I mean, that stuff was probably the best time in wrestling, but it won't work for the model that Vince and the future senator to be Linda have in mind.
They have been making a lot of money. They're making almost as much money now.
Hand over
I'm
fist.
sorry. They're making money now more so than they were making before the Attitude Era and after the Attitude Era. Their business, as you've said many a time, Dave, probably won't ever be any bigger than it was during the Attitude Era. But they're making hundreds of millions of dollars a
their
year.
interest level may not be as big as it was during the Attitude Era, but they've cleaned up their business model
Mhm.
to the point where it's very efficient now, and it makes cash. It's a cash cow.
Thank you very much for that email, Rob Wilson. Our next email comes from Yusuf from Kuwait. What are your thoughts on the Hart Dynasty as single competitors if they somehow get separated? I'm a mark for Tyson Kidd. D.H. Smith just doesn't do anything for
But
me.
D.H. Smith has the size that
He's got the look.
Vince
Ah.
covets.
He's got no charisma.
Yet.
Look at his dad. I mean, he had the personality of a potato chip.
Maybe he needs a dog.
There you go. No, really, I mean, those three have got to stay together. Because
They
none of-
mean something when they're together.
Well, yeah, they don't mean anything when they're all separated. But give them time.
Give him time. Speaking of time, who trained Tyson Kidd?
Bret Hart,
Where did
in
he
the
train him?
dungeon.
he was the last kid in the dungeon.
Now, are you ready to apologize, or are you going to somehow or another spin it to say you didn't say Bret Hart he wasn't the last person trained by Bret Hart because you went?
Because Bret Hart's not dead, so Bret Hart can train somebody else. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Move on.
Sam Sabiri sends this email in that says, "I have had it with Meathead saying WWE is not pushing new stars. I think WWE is doing a great job at pushing Cody and Ted, John Morrison, Dolph Ziggler, MVP, Kofi, and Jack Swagger. So how can you say that WWE is not making new stars?"
Because their main event still is cluttered with Randy Orton, Triple H, John Cena, Undertaker. The only new guy pushed into the main event is Punk.
But they're not going to be immediately thrust into the main event.
Well, that's what the IWC wants to see. They want John Morrison as the champ. They wanted Jeff Hardy and got Jeff Hardy as the champ. They wanted Punk, then didn't want Punk, and now want Punk again as the champ. They need to mix up the main event. That's where the problem is.
So you're saying these people have not been pushed as new stars?
They're on TV, so they're being pushed. So I
Oh my
guess
God,
I'm
they're,
wrong.
They're pushing Kofi to the moon right now.
No. You can't stand Kofi, so how are they pushing?
No, I didn't say that. You didn't say
I
that.
didn't say I can't stand him. I'm just saying that, he's
Why?
he's not going to be a top guy. They're trying.
But again, though, here's the question I asked you when you said that before. Before he did it, did you think that CM Punk, Edge, or Jeff Hardy would be top stars?
Not even, but how long did it take Edge to be a
Right.
top star?
Exactly.
But Edge's build was
How long
perfect.
did
I
it
think
take-
that's the
How
model.
long did it take Jeff Hardy to be a top star?
But remember, he was a young guy, so he was.
Well, and so is Kofi. It may take Kofi 5 or 6
But you know what? I
years.
think Edge's build, the way he got made into a top star, is the model. I think that's really the route.
Rick
that,
Martel was not involved. at any of this.
Arrogance.
But you know what? Watching both companies, I think that WWE has a far better nucleus of young stars than
Yeah.
TNA.
Yeah, they do.
Disagree.
No, I agree.
Okay,
Actually,
you give me the top 5 young guys in TNA.
Top 5 young guys
And
in
don't
TNA.
You can't
put
say AJ Styles.
You can't say him.
Chris Sabin,
Okay.
Alex Shelley,
All right.
Amazing Red.
who?
Okay.
He's a great talent. He could be a.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but he already
ahead.
didn't make it in a company
So
one time.
you're at 3.
I would say. Well, I can't say Christopher Daniels. He's old.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'll give you. I won't even say Dolph Ziggler because he's been around for a while.
Uh-huh.
I'll say Jack Swagger. I'll say Sheamus. I'll say Evan Bourne.
But look at their roster. TNA's got what, 45, 50 guys? WWE has how many?
But they've all
100.
had the same opportunity to get the same guys.
Yeah, but they only
Two
have
of
so
the-
many rooms, so many spots in TNA because they have to have those older names, so they don't have enough room to get.
But I'm
those
just
guys.
saying that right now there's a stronger nucleus in WWE.
And again, and I agree.
A potential talent pool.
At the beginning, I said I agreed with you.
A potential talent pool, I'll give you that.
Sure.
All right. It's a half a win.
We want to make sure you remember that the Pro Wrestling Report will not be on 540 ESPN this evening. It will be on Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Special day, special time, 8 o'clock p.m. It's Wednesday PWR, Wednesday Live. Our guests will be, in addition to one name who we will not tell you until this showtime. However, it's a person who has been downloaded a lot lately. Let's just say that.
I wanted to. Yeah, just keep going.
Along with our two announced guests, AJ Styles, a phenomenal one, and the return of Mr. Anderson, Ken Anderson, to the Pro Wrestling Report. That's Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m., streaming live at PWRshow.com. So, we'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of PWR Express, where we're going to talk about whether or not Hulk Hogan did or did not build or make WCW a household name. For the man they call Meathead and the Cause and Dave Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Express.